Well, it's good to see all of you. I have the privilege of bringing a dear friend up on stage. I usually have to do some research to introduce my guest speakers, just to make sure I present them well, but I don't need to do that today because this is a dear friend and partner in ministry. As you all know, I was sent by a church called Grace Covenant from Virginia. And what you might not know is I spent a minute on the main campus before they reassigned me to a different campus of that church, what we thought was outer Siberia. And so I'm like, darn, I really wanted to be at the main site, but here I am being reassigned to something half an hour away to start a campus with this man I'm about to introduce, who I barely knew at the time. And the two of us started this campus outside of the main campus, and we, Tweedledee, Tweedledum, just trying to figure out how to do this right. And so he and I got to spend a lot of time together, and we became covenant brothers. And what's awesome is that from that campus, I was sent out to plant this church, Renew Church LA. Amen for that. You guys all are happy about that? And, thank you. And David Hermes, the man I'm about to introduce, is being sent out this summer to start a church in Denver. Amen. And so we are a church planting movement. And so he's planting a church called Hope Valley Church. And I'm so excited to bring him up here to support him, to encourage him, and to give us a word. So if you can put your hands together. David Hermes.
Good stuff. So I love being able to find spiritual family everywhere in the world. In fact, somebody I met in Poland is here this morning. And so that's amazing when you can know family from all over the world and meet them in different nations. And then here you are in an Every Nation church. So good to see you, Rosie. I want to take a picture of you this morning to start because we pray for you every single week at Grace Covenant Church. And so I just want them to see who we're praying for. So if you guys could just smile for me. Sorry about that. I'm going to break everything. You guys could just smile for me. If you're in the back, you don't have to smile because I can't see you. But that's good. So I want everybody to see who we're praying for now. It'll add maybe some conviction to them. But what I love about this is that Pastor Dehan saw you when there was nobody here, right? And what Pastor Dehan saw in his heart, what God revealed to him from his heart into Dehan's heart, was a people that would look like this and would come and bring a renewal to the city of Los Angeles through the gospel of Jesus Christ. And that gave him the courage to leave many comforts in order to come here and face many obstacles. And as I stand here now at the top of my roller coaster looking down going, oh, giddy up, I'm like, I cannot believe the number of things that he overcame to come to LA and to do this. So can we just honor your pastor? Pastor Dehan, thank you for your faithfulness to God and to his people. I want to introduce you to my family real quick. You're going to see real quickly that between Pastor Dehan being a covenant friend and you're going to see my wife and kids, you'll see that I'm a man who has outkicked his coverage. God has blessed me with a wife I don't deserve and kids that I'm unworthy of. Been married for 14 years, and they are excited. One of my kids, they remind me every single day how many more days until we move to Denver. And so I had to Google it this morning without her reminder, but it's 92 days, and we're excited about that. But that's my family. The kids are age 13 down to age 5, and they're excited about sowing into the kingdom of heaven by going. They know that going to Denver is in pursuit of making disciples and reaching the city. But they also know that God is going to do something extraordinary for them in the process as well. And we're all excited to discover what that is. Well, I know you're in a series on foundations, and you're examining the major building blocks of the faith. And we're going to continue in that series today and looking at the topic and the idea of lordship. Foundations are critical because they will allow you to capture the heart of God for you, and it'll help you relate well with Him and relate well with one another. And something that I know about Pastor Dehan is that if you come to him with financial issues or with relational issues or any sort of, you're trying to figure out those prayer requests, right? You're trying to figure out what to do about going back to college and you're trying to navigate career decisions. We're not going to start necessarily with the career decision or the finances, but he's going to go back to the foundations. And he's going to say, hey, this is who Jesus is. Do you believe this? Do you know this for yourself? This is what salvation is. Do you know this? Do you believe this for yourself? This is what lordship is. Do you know this? Do you believe this for yourself? This is what repentance is. Do you know this? Do you believe this for your life? So often it's easy to believe these things for somebody else's life, but we hesitate to believe it for our own life. And there's nothing like a trial to expose when we're believing for other people, but not for ourselves. And so today what I want to do is we're going to look at the topic of lordship, but I'm going to take it from a perspective that I've never done it before because it helped me. And it's my hope that it helps you in the process. But I've always understood lordship as obeying Jesus all the time. And certainly that's a part of lordship. That's our part. But what I want to do today is I want to take a bigger look at what lordship is and then figure out where our obedience fits into it. Because I was a Pharisee. I was a legalist. I was going to do the best that anybody could do, and somehow by doing the best that I could do and obeying and holding all these laws, I was going to please God and I was going to impress people, and that was going to be extraordinary. But really what it left me with is a lot of stress, trying to please what I thought was an angry God, an all-powerful, angry God. And it left me representing a God that wasn't the God of the Bible because I was representing an angry God. And so people would look at me and I'm like, hey, I was evangelizing people. I was like doing the best I could to bring them into a relationship with Jesus. But the Jesus I was introducing them to was angry and mean. And certainly obedience is a big part of it, but not because he's angry and mean, but because he's loving and compassionate, which is a part of his lordship. So we're going to look at lordship. I've titled the message, Good Lord, because it's an expression that we use when we mean anything but. Right? We say good Lord, and so often we use it when we're exasperated and we're done with things, or we're frustrated, or we're finished. Good Lord. We use it as an expletive if you're not daring enough to go all the way. Right? It's like a good Christian expletive. You manage to cuss a little bit in your heart without revealing your heart's intent to the people in front of you. And so you kind of got away with it, right? Good Christian cussing. It's clean on the outside, dirty on the inside. So I've titled the message as a cuss word. Good job, right? Good Lord. Here's what I hope that we see today. That the lordship of Jesus is not something that we should hide from or be afraid of, but it's something that we should run to and delight in and obey. When you hear Lord, what do you think of? Right? For me, it was God lording over us. It was a powerful God that I needed to revere and respect and obey, or he'd smite me, he'd smote me, he'd destroy me. And certainly he has the power to do those things. Sometimes what happens is we think of knights and serfs and peasants and Lord, like a British kind of thing, right? Like, or you think of Monty Python and the Holy Grail kind of lordship, and it's kind of a joke, and it's kind of this caricature that we look at, and we're like, okay, so he's the Lord, and we're the peasants, and this is how we relate to him. But what happens if you think of lordship just in terms of the Middle Ages, you get a God who's stuck in the Middle Ages. And we have a God who's not stuck in the Middle Ages. We have a God who's not stuck in the Old Testament. We have a God that's not stuck at creation. We have a God who is and who was and is to come, who's always here, always and forever. And the names that the Bible used to describe this God reveals this reality. It reveals this truth to us. There are three words that are used as you read your Bible. There are three ways that you'll see the word Lord written. You'll see the word Lord written in all caps. When you see the word written in all caps, Lord, it's in the Old Testament, and it's an occurrence of God's name, the Hebrew name Yahweh, which speaks of the covenant God, who's always the I am God, who was and is to come. It's the God who introduced himself to Moses and said, "Who are you?" And he said, "I am." And that's all you need to know, because I will always be, and I always have been. And you can take security and peace knowing that I'm not just a regional God. I'm not just a God for a time, but I'm a God for all of time and all of space and all of matter. And this was the promise that Yahweh offers us. So when you see all caps Lord, it's speaking of Yahweh. When you see Lord in the Old Testament, not all caps, it's referring to Adonai, which is a title that emphasizes God's authority. And when you see word Lord used in the New Testament, That's the book of Matthew and to the right, or the book of Matthew and down if you're using YouVersion. And it's the word kurios. It's a general word. It's a Greek word that means master. And it doesn't matter if we use a Hebrew name, a Greek name, or if we use Yahweh or we're using kurios. The point of the matter in this for us today is that we serve a God who is all-powerful, and we serve a God who has all authority, and we serve a God who exists always and forever. And here's what I hope you see today is that he uses all of this for our benefit. An example of the word kurios is Luke 6:46. He says, "Why do you call me Lord, Lord, and not do what I say? Why do you call me Master, Master, and not obey me?" Right? I was a soccer coach for my son's team for a little while, and for as long as I had patience for it, and I was found lacking. No, I didn't lose my temper or punt a kid or anything. I just we're getting ready to plant a church. I don't have time, but I was his soccer coach, and these kids would run around. They're 8 years old, and they're running around just making up rules and making up moves, and everybody thinks they're messy, and it's messy, but it's not Lionel Messi, right? MESSY, not MESI, right? So it's messy. It's like whoa. So, but it's they'll come to me and they're like, "Coach, this is what I should do." And it's like, no, I'm the coach. I'm gonna tell you what you should do. Right? And so often we approach Jesus, who is Lord, as he is master, and we're like, this is what you should do. And he reserves the right to say, this is what you should do. But so we're gonna see, I want to demonstrate today, hopefully, that these characteristics, the ever presence of God, the power and authority of God, and the mastering nature of God is all found in Jesus. And to do this, we're going to look at Matthew chapter 28, 18 through 20, if you're familiar with it. And I want to bring you up to speed to this. Jesus started his ministry by calling his disciples. And he said, "Come follow me and I'll make you fishers of men." And with that call, he said, "You're going to get some things in this. When you follow me, you're going to get me, because you're following me. You're going to get one another because I'm calling you together to be in community and to learn from one another and to celebrate with one another, to mourn with one another, to rejoice with one another, to grow with one another, to wrestle with one another, to fight with one another, to be with one another." That's what the home groups are all about. Because our following of Jesus is it's personal, but it's not private. We're called to do this together. And so he calls them together as a group, and he says, and also the third thing is that he's going to give them a purpose. And in Matthew 28, he's at the end of he's fulfilled his ministry. He's died on the cross. He's resurrected from the dead. He showed up and scared them and was like, "Hey, I killed death." And they're like, "Whoa." And then here he is, and he's getting ready to give them the job that he promised he was going to give them when he called them. Because he promised them at the very beginning that if they followed him, he would make them fishers of men. And now he's getting ready to send them out as fishers of men. And so that brings us to 28:18. It says this, "Then Jesus came to them and said, 'All authority in heaven and on earth has been given to me. Therefore, go and make disciples of all nations, baptizing them in the name of the Father and of the Son and of the Holy Spirit, and teaching them to obey everything that I've commanded you. And surely I am with you always to the very end of the age.'" This is God's word to us. Father, in the name of Jesus, awaken us to the reality of your lordship over all things, over our lives, and lead us to delight in you and to celebrate in your power and authority. In Jesus' name, amen. I want to consider three things today: the authority of Jesus, some really good news about the good news, and our reasonable response. It's something that I said I missed for a long time in my life because I was working so hard to be pleasing to God, and I was working so hard on lordship, I never considered why he was worthy of being followed, why I should obey him, and how I should obey him in my obedience. And so I made up a whole lot of rules. I made up a whole lot of systems and rules that I was incapable of keeping, that I tried to put on other people as well. And it was a tragedy. It was one day I woke up and I realized, what kind of Christian life am I inviting people into? It's a life of burden, a life of drudgery. It was very much not like the life that Jesus promises in the Scripture, that he promises with his resurrection, that he promises with his coming return. Now, the power and authority of Jesus, power, I love this. I love that we see in verse 18, it says, all authority in heaven and on earth has been given to me. This is right after Jesus is risen from the dead and he's getting ready to ascend to heaven. So he demonstrated that he had the most power possible because he asserted his power over the most powerful force on earth, which was death, because it was the most permanent. Right? Everything else is temporary. Broken bones heal, cuts are healed, but death, man, that was permanent. And Jesus wanted to demonstrate that he had the power to overcome even the most permanent of things and to show us that it has no power over us anymore. And so, but he demonstrates this power by rising from the dead. And the enemy, our greatest enemy called death, has been overthrown. And somebody who, I recently encountered power when I went to an MMA gym. Somebody got me some gym. They saw I was getting a little thick, and they were like, I'm gonna help you out, and I'm gonna get you into a gym, and it's an MMA thing, so you'll be interested in it. It'd be real rough, and you can go. And so I had these training sessions, and the guy's doing these exercises with me, and was wearing me out, and I was like, this is dumb. I came to fight, and like he's got me, like wax on, wax off kind of stuff, and I'm like, come on, Mr. Miyagi, I want to fight you, and so this trainer, he had told me early on, he's like, he lost his first fight. Or he lost his fight the previous night, rather. And so, he had a black eye, and he was really bruised, and he was just roughed up. And I was like, I could totally take this guy. That's why I was so eager to fight him. I was like, he's not even a good fighter, right? That's why he's a trainer. So I'm gonna fight him. I'm gonna beat him. Come on, let's grapple. Let's go, buddy. And so I was so eager. And so the last 10 minutes, I didn't tell him. That was all just in my mind. I didn't want to, make him insecure. And so he's like, hey, most people want to grapple. You want to get on the ground and wrestle a little bit? And I'm like, yes, I want to destroy you. And so we get on the ground, and I realized he was made of a different material than me. He's like concrete arms and legs, and he started to assert his power on me. And I was terrified. I was like, I'm going to die. This is how I die. In a little gym in Sterling, right? With some guy who couldn't even win a fight is going to murder me. And a friend paid for it, right? I'm feeling really set up, kind of disappointed with myself. But then I remembered he had power, but he didn't have authority. So I was like, I'm done. I'm good. I'm going to let you off easy. We'll follow up on this next time. He had all the power in the world, but he didn't have the authority because he was working for me. I had the authority. He had the power. Thank you, Jesus. I didn't realize that at the time. I just needed him to stop. But when I asked him to stop, I realized there's nothing. He's powerful. He could he only stopped because I pay him. Right? But that gave me the authority to do this in this relationship. And what Jesus is saying in this verse is he's saying, I don't just have power. I don't just have strength, but I have power to overcome and conquer death, but I also have authority. And because he has power and authority, he's able to save us. So when Pastor Dehan's talking about salvation last week, salvation is possible only because Jesus has both power and authority. And so you might wonder, how far does this authority go? Right? In Sterling, in Grace Covenant Church in Sterling, I'm the lead pastor. Well, yeah, I'm the lead pastor still. We're in transition. I'm like, where are we in that thing? But if I go to McDonald's, nobody calls me pastor there. Nobody's asking for marriage help because the authority of my pastorship is limited to that congregation. It doesn't work in the hallway of the school. So we're in an auditorium. I walk into the hallway. I walk into the office to say hi to the janitor. I am not his pastor. I do not have that authority in his life, but I have the authority to Grace Covenant Church in Sterling. So how far does the authority of Jesus reach? The authority of Jesus reaches, it's all authority on heaven and in earth. He has authority over all of these things. And so that's how you see in John chapter 1 that he was the one who was before all things, that he in the beginning was the Word, and the Word was God, and the Word was with God. He was there at the very beginning. He was there, that he created the beginning of things. Colossians 1 teaches us that in him all things were created by him and through him and for him, and in him all things hold together. So he's got authority over everything that was created, visible and invisible. So we're like, that's where his authority is. There was a study came out last week and said the universe is expanding at a faster rate than we thought. And it's expanding faster, and they have no idea how far it'll go and how long it'll go. But here's what I do know is that no matter how fast or how slow or how far or how near the universe expands, the authority of Jesus is over top of it. And that brings a lot of comfort to me, and it brings a lot of encouragement to me that that there is nothing that exists that's outside of his authority. He oversees the expansion of the universe. He oversees things as grand as that, and he oversees something as small as the conception of life. Something so microscopic as a baby when it's formed. So no matter how small or no matter how big, he has authority over it, and he experiences no limit in it because we know that he has the power. That's why that song we sang during worship, it says, I'll never walk alone, I'll never be afraid with you by my side. I was going to show a clip of The Lion King here. Where Simba, when he's in the elephant graveyard, y'all know that movie? It's coming out again, and it's basically the same movie, so that's cool. So I'm not mad about it. I'm happy about it because I like the movie, and yeah. So there's a scene in the elephant graveyard where Simba is all by himself, and he goes to roar, and he's like, Meow. And the hyenas are like, ha, 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 let's eat him, and they're teasing him, and they're mocking him, and then he's like, Meow. And they're like, ooh, scary lion. Do it again, Simba. And then he goes to roar again, but this time his father roars. And so they're expecting, and they hear, Bah. And it brought terror to the hyenas, and they scattered, and Mufasa jumps in and swats them around and destroys them. Mufasa's the good one, right? Yeah. That'd be really funny. And Scar came in and rescued Simba. Yeah, no, that's wrong. That's not what happened. We lose credibility, right there. So, so many thoughts. So Mufasa scares them away, but that's the confidence that we can walk in, because this is the one who's with us, the one who has power and authority. Where Simba lacked power, his father had power. Where Simba lacked authority, his father had authority, and so it wasn't just on him. So with all of this power and authority, God sees us in our fallenness. He sees us in our broken state. He sees us in our shame, our guilt, our struggles, our weaknesses. You know the difference. Sometimes it's just weakness. Sometimes it's rebellion. But he sees us in all of it, and he knows the difference between it. Sometimes we act like a weakness is rebellion, and sometimes we act like our rebellion is just a weakness because we don't want to acknowledge that we're in rebellion against God. But he sees all of it, knows the difference between it, and then chooses to come and redeem us in the midst of it. He makes that decision, so he uses all of his power, all of his authority to come and rescue us from ourselves and from our own rebellion against him. We don't have a God who uses his power for his own benefit in the short term. But his power and his authority, he used it for our benefit. His power and authority isn't just about us obeying and not looking at stuff online and not cheating and not having an affair and not giving in to lust or perversion. It's not about just that. It's about that he's ruling and reigning over everything. And as he rules over and reigns over everything, he's mindful of us, and he uses all of his power and all of his authority to redeem us. Very much unlike Thanos. It's like, if I collect these rings, I see you in your trouble, and I'll wipe you out. But Jesus is like, I'm going to wipe myself out for you. I'm going to use all of my power. I'm going to use all of my authority and allow myself to be wiped out for you. Because all of his power and all of his authority is not just loose with nowhere to go, it's constrained, it's contained within his love. The lordship of Jesus is not separate from his love, his mercy, and his compassion. And this is what I didn't understand for so long. And this is what produced a Pharisee. So some really good news about the really good news. The gospel isn't just that Jesus sees us in our sins and rescues us. It's not just that he rescued us and gives us a mission, which would be extraordinary. We don't deserve any of that. It's not just those things which would be good news on its own. It would be extraordinary all by itself. But it just keeps getting better. It's like one of those Russian stacking dolls, the gospel is. Right? You're like, wow, that's really good news. And you open it up and you're like, there's more good news. And you open it up again and you're like, there's more good news. Does the good news ever stop? And it doesn't. The good news just continues unstacking and unstacking and unstacking and unstacking. So here's some really good news for you today that I missed. So here's how I previously read the passage. I guess I should have done that at the beginning. I probably won't in the first service or in the next service either. But he says, but I've always focused on my responsibility in between the two things. So you see that all authority has been given and I will be with you. And all I heard is go and make disciples. All I heard was the work that I was supposed to do without consideration for who he is or what he's going to be to me moving forward. And it's this promise right here that makes the Great Commission so extraordinary and so life-changing and transformative. If we really lay hold of it, it's this, that I will be with you always. That's not the first thing that I would say if I was given all power and authority. All authority has been given to me on heaven and on earth. So go and make disciples and I'll be with you, is the promise of God. In his lordship, in his power, in his sovereignty, that he's going to be with us. What an extraordinary promise. I wonder, I'd be like, all power and authority has been given, all authority has been given to me on heaven and on earth. Free ice cream. No, I'm going to be with you. Because I am what you need. He's not just with us, but he's for us. And that was a missing point for much of my Christian life. Jesus is with us. And he's for us. So much of my Christian life, as I've talked about, was drudgery. I have to go to small group. I have to serve. I have to share my faith. I have to be thankful. I have to be happy about giving. I have to have a good attitude. Because that's what Jesus wants from me. I didn't realize how much of his lordship was executed for my benefit. I didn't realize the freedom that it was supposed to bring, and I allowed it to bring weight to me instead. In Exodus chapter 19, God paints a picture for the people of Israel. Saw this, it might be 17. It precedes the Ten Commandments. And Jesus is saying, hey, this is how this is going to work. I'm going to be your God, and you're going to be my people. And as a part of this covenant, what's going to happen is I'm going to provide for you, and I'm going to protect you, and I'm going to carry you through, and I'm going to make you a distinct people in all the earth. And then the Ten Commandments, it's about them living a distinct life for him. The promise was that he was going to be their God and their keeper and their provider and their sustainer. So it started with that promise. And then he's like, now here's how you can walk this out with me. This is how you can love me back. You can live this way and be a distinct people in the earth by honoring me with your lives, by honoring me with your resources, and then loving one another. And the bar he set wasn't really all that high. He's like, don't serve gods that you can create and of your own imagination, and basically don't kill each other. Like, love one another. It seems like such a simple, basic thing, right? And we're like, oh, the Ten Commandments are so weighty. It's like for the one who's protecting and providing and securing a future for us, to not instead love someone. It'd be like me going to my son and being like, hey, David, you've got my name, David Hermes, and so we share a name, and you have my DNA in you. I would appreciate it if you would quit calling Joe Smith Dad, because you have my name, and I'm your dad, not Joe Smith. I would appreciate it if you wouldn't call anybody else Dad. And if you don't call other people Dad, I'll take care of you. I can take care of you if I'm the only one you call Dad. But what you don't know about Joe Smith is that he has nothing but debt. So he can't pay for your college. I can't either, for that matter. But be real good at something, David. But Joe Smith is insecure. He's not going to love you the way I'm going to love you. He can't provide for you the way I'm going to provide for you. He can't protect you the way I'm going to protect you because he doesn't love you like I love you. He loves you for himself. I love you for you. Don't call somebody else Dad. That's the first few commandments. And then the next commandments are like, hey, don't murder. And then here's some ways to avoid murdering each other. Don't commit adultery, and don't steal from each other, and don't covet each other's things, and don't try and take your neighbor's wife, and there will be less murder. Right? Just find satisfaction in what I've given you instead of looking for it in what I've given to somebody else. And then we'll be good. But this Great Commission is I see in many ways just kind of an echo of this promise that he's going to be our God and we're going to be his people. He's saying, hey, all authority has been given to me. I am all powerful. I am the sovereign. I am the powerful one in this relationship, and I'm going to be with you. And your part of me being with you is just to go and make disciples. So what is our appropriate response? As we consider this all-powerful God who has all authority on heaven and on earth, how do we respond appropriately? I think we ought to respond with reverence. I love this time of the church in the United States where there's freedom and people can we can dress like we're dressed and it doesn't matter. In a church like this where it's like you can come just how you are and you're going to be welcomed. I mean, I was greeted this morning by the greeters just looking kind of lost and they so warmly greeted by people that didn't know I was going to be ministering today, which is really the test. If you know somebody's preaching, you're going to be nice. But they were nice to me when I could have been a jerk. But I love this season. And in Denver, it's going to be a church I want it to look and be just like you. That's part of the reason I took the picture. I want to be like you all. And I want us to be like you all are. But here's what I hope we don't lose in 300 years, and like with the kind of the move away from liturgy and kind of the constraints of everything else. I hope that in this time we don't lose a reverence for God. I hope, it's my prayer that in this time, because we're wearing tennis shoes and T-shirts, that we don't lose our reverence for a holy and all-powerful God. So our first response would be to revere him and to honor him as holy and to honor him with our lives and understand that we can do it in tennis shoes and a T-shirt. But we wouldn't lose sight of that aspect of his nature. Secondly, that we would delight in him. That we would delight in him as he is the one who's redeemed us and pursued us, chased after us and captured our hearts. That we would delight in him and that we would enjoy worshiping him and celebrating him and telling him about how good he is as we worship and worshiping by telling through evangelism, by telling other people how amazing he is, and that we would celebrate the goodness of God and that it would bring joy to our hearts, not weight and burden, but celebration. And then the last part is that we would obey him. discipline without delight is dreadful. But when you add delight into this understanding of who he is and the limitless nature of his power and his authority and a God who knows no bounds, and as we delight him, then it's a delight to obey him. It's a delight to honor him. It's a delight to say, hey, you know what, I don't watch, let's not go to that movie. I can't, the F word, too many F words, I can't do that on my own. I'm not going to willingly put myself in that situation. Or whatever it is that God is leading you to do, whatever it is that he's inspiring in your heart, that you would yield to the speaking, to the leading, to the inspiration of the Holy Spirit as he leads you and guides you in obedience, as he leads you and guides you into life, as he leads you and guides you into how to love him well and how to love one another effectively, how to love one another well. That we would then after we consider all of those things, our responsibility is to obey. It didn't start with obedience. It starts with him choosing us. It starts with his pursuit of us. Our obedience follows. And that's what I had backwards. So today, God is in pursuit of you. He's in pursuit of you, and he's choosing to use his power and his authority to gently draw you to himself. To gently speak to your heart and gently speak to your mind, to encourage you and inspire you that there's another way to be human. There's a different kind of life available to you in him, where he would be your God and you would be his person. Where he would be our God and we would be his people. That's the invitation that God has for us. If you're hiding anything from him today, or you've been running from him, or you've set up a whole bunch of laws and rules around it, if you haven't shown all your cards, I want to encourage you to do so today. He's here today for our benefit. He's here today for your benefit. To redeem and to save, to deliver, to inspire and encourage and give a new life. Could you pray with me today?